Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Messinio, President and CEO of the Marlboro Regional Chamber of Commerce, and welcome to another Member Spotlight video. Today, I'm very pleased to have Joe Gifford from Schooley Mitchell here to join us. Joe is one of our relatively newest members, at least in the last year or so, right, Joe?
Yeah.
And so Joe has a really unique business that I think adds a lot of benefit to those people who take advantage of his services. So, Joe, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about your business, what Schooley Mitchell does, and how you make an impact for those businesses you work with.
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks for having me, Steve. It's great to be here. Like you said, it's the business is called Schooley Mitchell, and we are a cost reduction consulting firm. I have history in engineering, basically, and this year I decided to add a segment to my business that's cost reduction, and so I invested into a Schooley Mitchell franchise this year. I went with Schooley Mitchell because Schooley Mitchell it's been around for 20 years. They provide a really unique value to their customers or their clients. They are able to reduce costs and expenses for clients, and basically do all of the work at no charge and bring back a value report to the client. The client can decide which way they want to go with it, if they want to accept our recommendations or not. And so, like I said, I think it's a great value service play to the client, and that's why I've invested in and started this business.
Awesome. So what are some of the ways that Schooley Mitchell helps businesses save money? You know, there's a number of them that you've shared with me, but share that with the audience, and there you go.
Yeah, sure. There's a number of categories we look at for clients, including things like shipping costs, waste disposal costs, payment processing, fuel costs, and shipping. I may have already said that, but it's a nice bundle of packages. Actually, telecom is another great one, IT, phones, things like that. And we typically see about 30% reduction. That kind of varies by category and client, obviously, but on average, about 30% reduction. So we look at those expense areas, and then we think about how much we could save in each one, and we try to go forward with that. So
how does the process work? You have a business that connects with you and says, okay, we want to look at reducing our costs in certain areas. Tell us about how that process works with the business when they engage with you, and then take me through to the point where they decide if they're going to accept your recommendations or not.
Yeah, sure. So if a client has interest, we will sit down and have a discussion about the different cost categories and about how much they spend in each one, so we can get a feel for where it might make the most sense and maybe where it doesn't. If they decide to move forward, we have a pretty simple contract that says, hey, we're going to go out and do all this work for you at no charge. We're going to come back with some suggestions. We'd then, if they decide that they want to move forward and they can pick all the cost categories that we've looked at, they can pick one or none. Then we sign an additional contract where we actually manage those expenses. We report on the savings to them, and we only recoup some of our costs during that ongoing process.
Gotcha. So as you save the company money, you get paid out through some of the savings that you're showing for the business you're working with.
Exactly, and that's kind of why I love the model. We're not asking for anything up front. There's no contract fee. It's just as they save money, we get a little bit of that.
That's great. I mean, it's definitely a worthwhile service. I'm curious as to why you think there are quote unquote roadblocks to people engaging with a company like yours, because there's Schooley Mitchell, there's some other expense management firms out there, and yet I know in my efforts to connect people with your company and others that there seems to be this, well, we're all set. And can you explain that? Why would people not want to take advantage of an outset set of eyes and looking at their expenses?
Yeah. Well, I get it. As a small business owner, I get it. I mean, I don't know how many emails a day and calls I get from vendors that want to sell me something or help me in some way. I think what's different with us is that we are never going to charge you any money. Honestly, I mean, we're going to contract with you. We're going to take some of the savings, but there's never a net cost to the client. So first of all, I like to set it up that way. I mean, think who is going to call you and offer services and not expect to be paid. So that's kind of a unique value prop. And we do see people that either they don't believe it, and that's kind of where we go to that. That's our initial foray into the discussion, or they've just reduced their own expenses. They just called their vendor. They just started got their savings. So when people say that they've already reduced their own expenses, I think it's an interesting discussion, and we generally can still find some savings because what we do is unique. We have a team that does this analysis. They know all the vendors. They know all the best pricing. And they can go out and work with, say, 5 vendors to find the best deal on waste, disposal. Whereas you probably called your waste vendor and you said, hey, give me a better price, right? So there's usually some opportunity there. And that's a way that we love to go at it and talk about, did you really get the best pricing? It's difficult too, because business owners and business people, sometimes that's their responsibility, right? Especially somebody saying AP or accounting, they're supposed to manage costs, right? So the way I look at it with them is that, hey, let you be the hero. Let us come in and help you find additional savings, and there's no reason that you and I can't team up and then present that to management. So. I think I see it a lot. I mean, I'm kind of new at the business, and almost every discussion starts with something like that, and then we start to get into the weeds a little bit. And if we do the analysis, almost always there's something there that we can help them with. So
excellent. And you said you can save, generally around 30%. What does that translate to, for example, for a small business of maybe 10 employees or something like that? Do you have any sense of what that may look like on average for companies that size and maybe even bigger companies?
Yeah. So it's kind of all over the map. Small companies are great because it's usually a lot easier to get started. The categories are more well defined. The data's there. And a company who maybe spends $10,000 on a few categories, let's say their telecom, their waste, and their shipping, then 30% is about $3,000 a year. Yeah. Now that's a pretty small client. Excuse me. We have clients that run the gamut from in that kind of range. Excuse me, up to say 100,000 in expenses and even in the millions.
Okay.
Schooley Mitchell, not me personally, has done some very large clients. Where they're saving in the millions per year. Not the total cost, but the actual savings.
Sure.
And those are obviously those would be incredible to find. To really help the client make a dent. I see it, a lot of businesses are scrapping for that bottom line, trying to find the money to maybe reinvest or, fix this or fix that or keep somebody on staff. So sometimes the 10,000, 20,000 of savings can make a huge difference in that area. And
absolutely. Absolutely. So what are the types of businesses? Is there any particular industry you favor in terms of who you're looking to do business with, or is it more just anybody that needs expense management?
Yeah, so we can work with virtually any business and nonprofit. Nonprofits are a great opportunity as well. They're generally very interested in the bottom line and the money gets reinvested, so it's a great fit. In terms of businesses, manufacturing is a great one. I have a background in engineering and manufacturing, so it's great. Plus, they've got so many of the cost categories typically. They're shipping, they may be payment processing, they've got waste disposal. There are other things we can do like fleet tracking and fuel, so we get into distribution companies.
Right.
Restaurants, retail, anybody that takes payment, we can help. And I should have mentioned too, we're vendor agnostic, so we're not like a payment processing company, we're not a waste company, but we look across at all the options for clients. And a lot of times we can end up working with local vendors that may be able to come in with a better price than the national, for example. That happens pretty often.
Okay.
So we do partner with vendors, but we don't have a preference. We don't, we're agnostic.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Who are your ideal referral partners? What are the types of businesses you like working with and building relationships with where you can pass referrals easily based on the model that you have?
Yeah, so probably the most obvious is like a CPA or a bookkeeper. They're in the business, they know the books, they know what they spend in the cost categories. Very easy discussion to talk about, with the client's permission, obviously, where are their opportunities. And they're just great to get into the weeds a little bit with. But there are plenty of others. Any professional that's working with businesses, kind of the businesses I mentioned, from insurance to coaching to any other thing, payroll, et cetera. There's just a gamut of people that are in businesses. And one of the interesting plays too is a lot of people are seeing cost increases year over year in their services. So insurance fees go up, whatever, taxes. A nice thing to do is say, hey, listen, your bill's going up this year, but I can bring in somebody who can actually help you and maybe look at some other areas to reduce costs. So it's a nice kind of synergy there with a lot of these professionals. That's an interesting way to approach it, and I think it's going to be a nice one with just a number of referral partners.
So with the businesses that you work with, say, have 30, 40, 50 employees or more, who are the people at those businesses you're generally looking to have conversations with? Is it their CEO, president, or the CFO? Who are the people that you're looking to engage with to demonstrate the value you bring from your company?
Yeah, so little larger companies, it's generally tricky to get to the CEO, CFO unless you have an inside referral or a relationship. It'd be great to get to them. Obviously, if you start at the top and they believe in buy off on what you're selling, then it's much easier to get the conversation. But eventually, we're probably going to get to somebody like an AP or somebody in finance, and they're the ones that know the numbers. They can help us kind of set the benchmarking, the baseline pricing, and stuff like that. And like I said earlier, I mean, getting into somebody in AP or somebody even in IT, that they're sort of loosely responsible for costs, right? So we can help them kind of set them up as the hero. We can work with them on the cost reduction and then have them propose it back to the upper management as something that they did along with us. So
awesome. Well, great. So what are some of what are the best ways for people to reach out and connect with you if they'd like to learn more about Schooley Mitchell and what we could do for them?
Yeah, sure. So there's a Schooley Mitchell overall business website, schooleymitchell.com, and in there you can find all the offices. We actually have a couple hundred, I think, across the U.S. and Canada. I am the Marlborough office, proudly, and if you go in there, you'll find that under Massachusetts. But also, I think you can do schooleymitchell.com/J Gifford, which is my first initial, my last name. The phone number for the business is 508-266-5184. And my email is joe.gifford@schooleymitchell.com.
Awesome. Well, Joe, really appreciate you being here today. Certainly, I wish you all success in your business, and especially where it adds a ton of value for those businesses who give you an opportunity to prove that, hey, you can reduce their expenses and improve their bottom line. So keep doing what you're doing, and good luck. That's it for today's episode. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.